People will remember City for the controversy more than the level. If they build a statue for him outside of Anfield, it's not too outrageous. I think it's actually very well deserved.
The view over time to them might be decided by that, whether the charges stick and actually how City are kind of seen in 10 or 15 years' time as a result of that.
In 20, 30 years, what will be looked back on is not feeling, unfortunately. It'll be trophies.
Hello and welcome back to Just Another Football Podcast. Tomorrow as we speak, is the final day of the season. As you probably watch this will go out on the Saturday. Fergal, if you listener or viewer are watching, Fergal is in a bit of a state. Lots of cardboard boxes behind him and a couple of crutches.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. What's happened?
Yeah, based on this scene of my camera, you might not know it's a hospital, but I'm in a hospital. This is prime NHS room I'm in. I've got storage boxes for there's bedpans up there, so if anybody needs a bedpan, let me know. I've got right there.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I've broke my leg quite badly. I dislocated my tibia, a couple of fractures playing football. No tackle, just went over on it awkwardly. So yeah, I'm on the first steps of the road to recovery with all of that.
Yeah.
So but I'm literally doing nothing, waiting on an operation next week. So no reason why I can't record the pod.
The dedication, Fergal. My goodness. Well, hey, look, I'm in a hospital. I don't have any sort of technology or scene behind me or anything, and I'm still gonna record. Gonna make it.
From the sounds of it, the Man United squad might need a few tips from Fergal. We've got 25% of our team out, still playing for it. Yeah.
Dedication.
Yeah, I might have to pop off at some point. Someone might come and give me medication, or might have results for the scan and stuff like that. So might have to pop off at some point. But I'm here for the moment.
Yeah, man. Sorry to hear about the injury. Obviously,
these things happen.
Yeah, man. Harry's chosen to wear a white top. What's going on? Come on!
Very good.
Also, you have a pretty good beard for by the standards. I've literally never seen you in a beard, so that was amazing.
No, we're trying something a bit different with this sort of scruffy double on the go at the minute.
Rugged.
It is rugged. Rugged is exactly the word, but I don't know. I'm quite enjoying it, doing something a bit different. So we're just going to roll with the punches. I also just want to point out, as miraculous as Fergal being on this podcast is, I'm just as pleased that I've actually managed to get on it this morning after a massive night out last night. It was looking unlikely.
These are utterly different reasons, Harry. These are totally different reasons.
I have terrible hangovers. I think if it's definitely more likely that I would have missed it if I was hungover rather than had a broken leg, without a doubt. So I commend you, Harry, for
yeah, they do get worse with age. I'm telling you, man. Like 2 or 3 years ago, like hangovers were nothing. A bit of breakfast, bit of air, lovely. But honestly, they hit me worse each time, I think.
I think Fergal's got some access to a bit stronger painkillers as well. So
I'm on some good stuff. High as a kite I was whenever they put my foot back in place or my leg.
George, anything happening with you then? Are you okay?
No, there's nothing interesting going on over here. I've got nothing to report. I'm trying to think of anything.
The top is quite good. You were wearing a classic Chelsea.
Yeah, I'll rate that. It can bring that out because Chelsea are playing well. So bring that out.
But finally come out of the woodwork over the last couple of weeks. We could get into Harry's yawning already. Hello. My goodness. Okay. Well, before we get into the final day of the season, tomorrow, lots to play for. Not in the bottom three, rather than the European spots and obviously the title. And Jurgen Klopp's final game, we'll probably get into that as well. Virtual assistant refereeing. It's final Premier League game week.
Isn't it video assistant referee?
Did I say virtual? I think I said virtual, didn't I? Video assistant refereeing. See, it's so foreign. I don't know what to call it.
It'd be much better if they didn't actually exist and they were virtual.
Yeah, it was.
Just let AI do it better than humans. If they program basic code, I think it would be better than the level that we're seeing right now. Its final game week may be tomorrow because the Premier League clubs are set to vote on its very existence in the competition in June. So we might not see it again, even with the possibility of semi-automated offsides. That was officially coming in October, which is going to be very amusing next season, starting with the current system and then transitioning after a couple of international breaks into the new semi-automated system, which questions on the integrity of the competition in that case. But what was your reaction to that? Like when you heard the news that, oh my God, we might not actually see any VAR anymore, were you? I felt a bit excited, to be honest. Like my honest reaction. How do you feel?
Well, just to take you up on that though, so you felt excited for what reasons? Like what basically, if you boil it down, why would you get rid of VAR?
The game is incompatible with video assistant refereeing. I think ultimately the sport is fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be almost refereed like police applying law. And I think everyone is overthinking the use of it. I don't think it's compatible. It's just sport. Like if a referee makes a mistake, obviously the general level of the refereeing, the referees understanding the law, I think we can all agree should be higher. But the level of overthinking and the fact that they haven't gotten into grips yet with why and how to use it. Like it was supposed to come in with, this is for catastrophic mistakes that would change the course of the game if the decision wasn't overturned, or if the referee didn't get help, or if there's an incident that happens the referee didn't see, a la Zidane against Materazzi in 2006. That was ultimately decided, I believe, by video or by an eyewitness referee. Like not the main referee saw it.
Fourth official saw a replay of it and told the referee that everyone was looking at the goal kick whenever it happened, so nobody was looking at Zidane.
Yeah, but it's for that, like it's for that sort of thing. We haven't seen that. Like it's not as advertised at all, and I don't think Jurgen Klopp said it yesterday, and it reflects the way that Jurgen Klopp thinks. Is like he has a brain and a set of worldview that I totally align with. That he just thinks the system in concept is good for the game, but those people are not capable of applying it, and it's just better to get rid of it and accept their mistakes. Because they're the same mistakes, but even more infuriating because they have the technology, they're not able to use it.
That's a bit for me, but whenever VAR was being talked about, it was meant to be like it was being talked about as if all mistakes are going to be removed from refereeing, and you know the negative of VAR was that you're going to have these stoppages in play and reviews, but the positive was that you're going to get 100% of everything right, which was just totally unrealistic, and I wasn't keen on it at the time, and it's just shown that like I don't think we're any better off. Like they say that there are stats to show that the mistakes made have decreased, but is it enough? Are they getting the big calls right? It was meant to also improve like the discourse about it, like like there won't be so much chat about refereeing now. But that's all like increased. Now you've got
It's double
conspiracy theories and stuff like that. I think it's made the referee's job harder in some ways, or definitely the video assistant referees. They weren't even well set up to do it. I don't feel like one of the big issues about it was it doesn't look like they've learnt from any other similar systems in any other sport. and taking anything good from those sports and implementing it into this. Like the lack of communication with fans in the stadium, the fact that referees aren't mic'd up. Like, I don't know why you don't look at rugby and see like, oh, that the referees are always mic'd up. This is such a positive because everybody knows what's happening. I'm gonna have to go here to my friends just turned up, but it was good talking to you.
Great talking to you, man.
I'll see you about.
All right.
Hey, mate.
Bye, Fergal. Welcome back. That's sweet, isn't it? Fergal there getting a surprise visit from his friends. We're gonna have to ride without him, but yeah, Fergal, if you're still watching, all the best, man, on your recovery and stuff. We'll move on then, because the other very amusing thing that happened, and we'll get into the final day of the season, do not worry, is Postecoglou, because Harry, I'm sure you experienced a classic Liverpool experience of waiting for someone to get points off City. Ultimately, didn't happen. And then Spurs fans were supporting City on the day. Spurs fans will tell you, like, it's obviously a very complicated thing. Postecoglou criticized the fans. I think it's no secret that he's not happy with the way they kind of reacted to the game and wanted things to go. Did you feel any of what Arsenal fans felt at the time, where it's some Arsenal fans had conspiracy theories about Tottenham throwing the game away, and the Son one-on-one in particular? What do you feel about it?
No, I don't think you can go that far. I actually think if you look at Spurs, it's probably one of their better performances in recent weeks. Like, I don't have any problem with the way they approached the game, the way they played. They caused City problems, probably more than I thought they'd cause them. The only thing I would say, and it was a point that was made before the game, is Spurs weren't going to get anything from the crowd. Like, it was going to have to be the 11 players on that pitch, you know, and some extremely good tactics and a really good performance to get anything out of the game. And where you're in a game against a team that, let's be honest, are much better than you, and you're playing on the margins and making it tight. And it was 0-0 at half time, it was 0-0 to about 50 minutes. So, you know, as good as City are, and as many times as they've done it, it's still like a nervy kind of situation where if you go a goal down, like, you're in real trouble there, you're in real bother. But Spurs just weren't going to get any kind of extra added motivation from the crowd. And then equally, when it goes to 1-0, like, you know, there was absolutely no reaction from the crowd to sort of push them up the other end and get an equaliser and, you know, throw the kitchen sink at it. And they had some chances. Like, they probably should have got something out of the game, really, with some of the chances that were missed. But it is difficult because if the shoe was on the other foot and it was Spurs going for the title and we were playing City, and basically, I think where we were a bit unlucky is obviously the game was rescheduled and they've dumped it in right at the end of the season. And it pretty much is, if City win, they win the league, and if they don't win, we win the league. Like, the consequences of that result were so obvious by that point. It's not like it's, you know, I think the game was due to be the start of April. So there's enough time in between where Spurs wouldn't go in with the same attitude of, like, if we win this, we've given Arsenal the title. Like, they've literally got one game left and it's at home against the team they should beat. So, you know, City got to an FA Cup semi-final. Like, it's not luck that the game was rearranged, but they are lucky where it went in, I think, because, you know, the consequences were so obvious by that point. And I thought, as soon as I saw it go in that last week of the season, that if there was a games difference between the two teams, and it was that game would ultimately decide it, I thought Spurs as a club were going with the attitude that they probably over. And the other thing is they've obviously bombed themselves really out the Champions League race. I know they kind of technically were still in it, but it's different if they're, you know, win and they go above Villa, or win and it's in their hand. It wasn't even in their hands. It was win and they still need Villa to lose another game. So I think it's unfortunate that we ended up in a situation where a game that was quite tricky on paper, and a team that have given City problems, albeit with kind of maybe a slightly different way of playing in the past. It wasn't the same. It didn't have the same energy going into that game than it has in the past. So, yeah, it's frustrating. But I expected City. Yeah, well, exactly right. I was thinking about it. So, it wasn't as. It wasn't as obvious, like it wasn't in the last week of the season, but I remember the season Liverpool got 97 points. There was a similar where United had City right at the end of the season. I think it was a midweek game, and it was 0-0 at half time, ended up 2-0. Had a very similar sort of feel to that. There's not maybe quite as much. It wasn't maybe at that time as obvious who they'd want to give the title to, because it is their rivals as well, like the Manchester derby. But in a situation like this, Spurs are obviously going to prefer City to win it. Yeah. But it was a similar feeling, like you're hoping that the sort of occasion gets to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't play very well. I'll be honest, like it is kind of frustrating. Like I'm looking at that and I'm like, yeah, everyone goes on about kind of them being, inevitable and having this aura. And obviously they've got really good players that produce in moments for them. But
they are
Spurs
inevitable.
had some chances. Spurs, like really, to be honest, I know what you're saying, but like, Son has a one-on-one at 87 minutes that he scores probably more times than not.
Can I just say,
like,
this is an awful finish, and everyone has gone way over the top about Ortega. It's such an ordinary save. Like, it's a save. Honestly, think he goes down early and he makes the determination that he is gonna spread that particular way, but he left a yard for Son to his left that Son could have finished it in, like. To the left of Ortega. I think if he rolled it anywhere to Ortega's left, it's a goal. It's a terrible finish. And if Son thinks it as well, it's an automatic goal. Like it's such an awful finish. I don't know why everyone has gone way over the top about Ortega that way. And he got man of the match.
Well, it's because that save, it's so obvious to just point to that and go, that's the save that wins them the league. I know what you mean.
Of course it is, but it's ordinary in my opinion. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good save, but it's not
one-on-one. I think one-on-ones, you always give keepers credit if they save it, even if it's a poor finish.
But it's a.
I know what you mean.
I think it's a much poorer finish than it is a good save. My opinion.
I'm all for hammering Son. Like, I need absolutely no convincing, but
he's not normally an elite one-on-one finisher. That's why Tottenham put him in so many one-on-one situations, and when he had that partnership with Kane.
He scored that chance so many times against City and other teams. It is frustrating. It's frustrating. It is really, really frustrating because ultimately they've done it again, haven't they? Where they've won, near enough every single game when they need to win it. Like what have they had? Like something like 3 draws in 5 months. They haven't lost a game. They've lost the penalty shootout to Real Madrid. Like. And everyone's been going. I probably think it's sort of to an extent as well. Like they've not been as maybe good as seasons gone by, but like listen to what I've just said. They've not lost a game for 5 months, and people are still saying, yeah, they're not the peak City, but they still haven't lost a game for 5 months, and they're going to win another league title. Like it just. This is the scale of the task.
It's a terrible situation. It's an awful, awful situation. I think it's bad for the league, for its reputation, its integrity.
I disagree. I think look, it's not great that City are going to win 5 in 6 or whatever it is.
6 in 7.
Is it 6 and 7?
Mm-hmm. 4 in a row and 6 and 7.
Yeah, it's obviously not great on paper, but if you look at the title races that we've actually had enjoyable title races. If you go back to in the past, and I hear a lot of like Man United fans complaining about it's a one club league now, and the dominance is ridiculous, and obviously there's questionable circumstances that have come about to get to this point, but we've had exciting title races that have gone to the last day. Think Gundogan, even going back as far as Aguero, and even this title race now. We've still got a game left, and West Ham have been pretty terrible recently, but they're a mid-table club that could turn up.
You just wait until West Ham go 2-0 up, and it's the 85th minute, and then City score 3.
City score 3.
Honestly, I'm sure he said that in his press conference yesterday.
Yeah,
if that happens, I'm genuinely severing ties with the sport. Like I won't watch the game.
I'm so fortunate. Okay, this happened last year, 2 years ago, obviously, because Villa played Man City, we played Wolves. We were drawing 1-1.
You never got in front before they did you?
Yeah, we didn't get in front before City did. But anyway, I was at my brother's graduation ceremony that day. And my phone, I kept looking at updates on my phone, and the network was terrible. It was awful. And like my batteries was dying. It eventually died after City went 3-2 up. And I just got myself very lucky that I wasn't sat there watching the games on the day. And I was actually a really enjoyable occasion. It's like my brother's graduating from Masters. It's very good. And I just, if anything happens, I hope you don't go through that, I think. Yeah.
That is pain. But I guess going back to my point is the Premier League's never been competitive. We talk about the top four.
It's like a subset of teams that is guaranteed.
Exactly, and if you look at Man United's dominance in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, it is ridiculous. It's actually again not that enjoyable. Yes, there was
but here's the difference for me. You are right, and I was thinking about that earlier this week. But the difference for me is teams, fans up and down the country, despise them. Teams don't despise City. They don't feel anything towards them. And I think when time passes and we're looking back at this in 10 or 15 years, because as you say, football's cyclical, so they're not going to be around forever. But people are going to look back and go, God, they won 6 titles in 7 years. People must have absolutely loathed it. They didn't. They're the team you're hoping wins it every year. So you're right, your actual rivals don't. That's the scenario that we actually find ourselves in. Looking at it the other night, and I know obviously I'm closer to it as a fan of the team they're up against, but I'm looking and I'm seeing Newcastle fans and Aston Villa fans, even Bournemouth fans chime in and go, oh, unlucky Arsenal, City won another title. You find yourself in this situation where you look at the neutral fan and it feels like even they're rooting for City, because I think it's easier then to just go, well, City are too good and there's no opportunity for other teams to sort of move up and do anything in this space, so therefore we'll just write it off. They are who they are, and it is what it is. It can kind of mask your own shortfallings as a club when you just think that they're inevitable. They'll clean up every year.
I'm just going to say, I would rather the apocalypse than City winning the league.
But you're right on my front. Obviously, I'm closer to it than a Newcastle fan because Chelsea and Arsenal, not too close of a rivalry, but a fair rivalry. I'd rather City win the league.
You've said that before,
of course. But if my club was in the position of Tottenham's Spurs, I think I align a lot with Ange. Positive conclude. You absolutely have to win every game that you're in, or try to. Especially, I know you said obviously it's an outside chance, but especially if you've got Champions League football on the line, and to hear. Even as a fan, I'd want my team to try and win that game because that's what the sport's about, right? It's about that integrity. It's about winning, and doing what you can to win and improve your club situation. It's an odd one. It's a shame they didn't draw. That would have made a really great final day. But
I think that would have, because you could see City just hammering West Ham and it then coming down to goal difference. It would have been.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
would have been dramatic. But
is there a possibility of goal difference? What's the?
No, not now.
No, not now.
Not now.
Yeah,
can't be. Either they'll win it or we'll win it on points.
Yeah. Well, good luck, Harry.
I'm actually glad I'm at our game. So. It was a similar thing a few years ago when we were going for top 4. When we had Everton, funny enough, again, and it's not the same stakes, but it quite quickly Spurs, I think, with 2 or 3 goals up, and you're just like, okay, they're going to win. They're playing Norwich, you'd expect them to win. It's a similar thing here. City are playing a team you expect them to beat, and I'm glad I'm not just going to have to sit there and because it's torture. You've done it, Ali. I've ended up doing it the last 2 seasons. You're just watching all their games, and they have all the play, all the dominance, all the shots. It just, it's a bloody hard watching them and hoping that they will drop points. It's actually torturous.
Yeah. Or Sergio Aguero scores at Burnley with the ball just crossing the line by this much.
It just. For me, I've tried to avoid it where possible. I didn't watch them against Fulham. I didn't watch them against Wolves.
Good on you.
I did watch them against Forest because it was on after our game against Spurs. So I thought, this banana skin. But like where possible, I've not put myself through it this time, and I'm glad that on this occasion I'll be at our game. You know, we can hopefully enjoy that and just save the fact that we've had a good second half of the season. That there's not a lot more really that we could have done from December onwards.
Yeah, 100
I think
point pace.
if you're reflecting on it, what does it take to beat City over a season under Pep Guardiola? The two teams that have done it in Chelsea and in Liverpool. You can't get to a run-in with them, I don't think. You don't want to be in a position where it's like within a game or whatever, where you drop points, then they'll be in, and then they just keep winning. They'll just better your results. Like, we've drawn with them, lost one game to Aston Villa, which, like, Villa are a decent side, and I actually think that Villa for us is a harder game than probably it is for any other team, given, you know, the manager used to work for us. They definitely played with extra motivation on that occasion. Like, they've not put up a performance that's touched the side since then. I'm just looking at it like, how on earth? I watched them on Monday against Liverpool. So open. It was a great game. Like, we didn't score against this season. And it's like, yeah, but we weren't actually playing against this sort of setup or this level of performance. Like, you know, but it was a bad result. We slipped up once, and that once was literally all it's taken by the looks of it. So,
yeah,
I think if you're reflecting on it, like, City were a bit messy before Christmas as well. Like, they were having some dodgy results. I think they went for a period where they won 1 in 6 games, you know, which for them is unheard of. And it's not too dissimilar a run to the one we went on, you know, at the end of December. But unfortunately, I think you have to be, you need a buffer ahead of the run-in, I think, with them, because, you know, and then the fixtures have maybe fallen nicely. Like, you would look at a lot of those games on paper and say, yeah, they should beat all of those teams. But I think if they're in a run-in, they don't seem to, they never blink first. And it's very frustrating. It is very frustrating. This is different to last year where, like, equally, they were perfect until obviously they won the league, and then the last couple of games were like whatever. But we also made their task easier. Like, we took the pressure off by losing games, drawing games, losing momentum. We've not done that this time. We've had one bad result, but then we've had the hardest run-in, I think, of any team, of us, Liverpool or City, really, if you look at the games on paper. And it's a more than acceptable return from that run of games. Like, if you'd said to me, you know, these are your last 10 games of the season, you got City away, you got Chelsea at home, Liverpool, United away, Spurs away, Villa at home. Like, what do you think you're going to do with those games? Yeah, we'll probably drop. We'll probably, like, a draw is a good result with City. I know that we've discussed that, but, like, there's just no world in which I'll ever look at that result and go, that's what cost us, because we were still in front of that point. And I just think, you look at their form. Like, they've drawn 3 games in 2024. Like,
you know what it would take to beat Man City, and this would be a good transition point to another huge event happening on the final day of the season. Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool between February 27th, 2019 and February 24th, 2020. 38 games, 110
drew one
points.
Game. Yeah.
Drew 2 games in that period.
I drew 2 games, yeah. I mean,
that's what I mean, to Watford randomly.
I mean, City were a little bit, like, by their standards, weren't as good that season, but, like, equally, you did just win every single game. So, like, that is honestly what you're talking about having to do. Like, dropping points. You know, we drew to Fulham in August, and it was like, it's an absolute disaster of a result. And it's that early in the season, because you're just looking at it and going, you've got to then get those 2 points back. And, like, we probably have over the course of the season, because we've had good results in a lot of the big games. But, like, that is what you're talking about. Like, that early in the season, you drop points, and it just feels like a disaster, because you know they're not going to drop points against those teams. They're going to beat every single one of them over the course of the season.
Yeah, you can't.
I believe we're probably doing a review, aren't we, on another episode? But if there was any team that you would be really positive going into next season, it is Arsenal, and that's not to be, like, patronising, but you've done the exact opposite of what happened last year. You've won your last 5 games in a row. Like you mentioned, your last 5 fixtures were ridiculous, like ridiculously tough.
Yeah, in a run, you're playing all your rivals, basically. Like, they all want to end your season.
Yeah, exactly. They all want to end your season. You've beaten them all. You've got a young squad. You've got stability. You know, the only question now would be, it's a different task motivating a team that some say bottled it to then go and
I agree. I think that last year,
he's done really well, and it's still impossible. That's a different task. But I think you've got to be incredibly positive, no matter how it goes, because it's just a machine on the other side. It's not a football team. It's just it's a robot.
Yeah. For the sake of time, we'll move on to Liverpool, but I do have a prediction to make because last season or before last season, before last season, I said Jurgen Klopp would play his final season with Liverpool. And then he considered it. He didn't quit because his wife convinced him to stay. And then before this season, I said this would be the last season for Jurgen Klopp, and it was. I'm making a similar call now. I think next season is Pep Guardiola's last with Man City. We'll move on to Liverpool then. From one icon to the other, Jurgen Klopp is playing his final game, and I won't watch it. I'll be working. So it's good. That's good. Because I think if I watched, I may get over the top emotional about it. I'm that way. I feel like when I move on to something, when I leave a job that I really like, or I graduate from a school where I've had a really good time, I get attached to things. Obviously, being a Liverpool fan for that long with Jurgen Klopp being there and bringing Liverpool from a hugely mediocre place to where we are now. I think I don't know how I would deal with the scenes really. So it's good that I'm missing it and just enjoying my time coaching soccer for little kids having fun. Arne Slot has announced himself that he's going to Liverpool. The extent to which Arne Slot is excited about coaching Liverpool is concerning me. I don't know if that not enough has been made of this. Like, Arne Slot has come out every 2 days and went, oh, they're negotiating, but I'm 100% certain that they will reach an agreement. And then a couple days ago going, oh, I will actually be the next Liverpool manager. And it's like, calm down. Just give it time. Be a bit more diplomatic about it. I don't know if that's Dutch straightforwardness or just someone that's way too giddy to become Liverpool manager. But whatever he does, it's going to be a really difficult task to replace what Klopp... It felt from the moment Jurgen Klopp came in that it's just the perfect fit. Like, culture of Liverpool to the man Jurgen Klopp is and how he builds a relationship with fans, as we'd seen in Mainz and Dortmund. It's going to be a very, very difficult task for any manager to replace Jurgen Klopp, I think. To you, so to us Liverpool fans, Jurgen Klopp is, I think, if they build a statue outside of Anfield, I don't think it would be an outrageous thing to do. George's done a face there, and here comes my question. What is Jurgen Klopp's legacy to you?
It's a tough one. I'm going to be really harsh here. I do think you've got to look back on missed opportunities, don't you? Like, you've won everything. Fair play. That is incredible. And his legacy will obviously therefore live on. Certainly where Liverpool were in that period of time. But Rafa's won Premier League off sort of doing a Champions League and a Premier League on Klopp's record. Perhaps it was the feeling around the club, the emotions that really stamped, hold him there as a legend, which I'll never feel. For me, Klopp is actually quite annoying. He's quite. I loved him when he first came in. Now I find him quite not bitter, but a little bit. Like a martyr, which is annoying. And so I think football fans, other than Liverpool fans, don't get that feeling around him anymore. Where his football has got worse over time, his attitude, I don't feel more connected with him. than I did before. And realistically, you know, in 20, 30 years, what will be looked back on is not feeling, unfortunately. It'll be trophies and missed opportunities, and they're quite stark. Despite, you know, no one will go, oh, that Liverpool team, 97 points, didn't win the league. Like, it will be City as a period of dominance. So, yeah, it's a weird one. I don't know. What do you feel?
I think
I'll
ask for Harry's thoughts on that first, and then because I have quite a few responses, and I think you made quite fair points. I do have responses to them, but Harry, as like an emerging rival to Liverpool.
Well, and also, we found ourselves in not too dissimilar a position this season, where not quite 97 points and obviously 92, but had a great season and come up just, you know, by the looks of it, just short. It's very difficult because really you are like nitpicking at the highest level of the sport. Like, the margins are so fine. So you talk about missed opportunities, and like, I do get it, but in a season where you get 97 points, lose one game to City, and don't win the league, it's very difficult to describe that as missed opportunities. It's just obscene. It's like the third highest points total we've ever seen in the season. So like, I find it difficult to sort of be critical. I think I know what you're saying about, you know, his attitude, the way he comes across, but like, if I'm a Liverpool fan, I don't really care about that, if I'm honest. I think
absolutely. Yeah.
And for me, actually, like, looking at, because, you know, we found ourselves in quite a similar position in terms of going absolutely nowhere as a club, like kind of floating mediocre and mid-table. And we've had a manager come in and change the fortune. So like, I do understand the sort of like the feeling, and other rivals wouldn't, they're not inclined to actually feel a certain way. Like, I'm probably in the same with Liverpool as you guys will be with Arsenal. Like, no one cares about the journey. It's all about the destination and what you achieve kind of as the outcome. But I slightly differ in terms of, I think Liverpool fans will look back in you know, 20 years time, and they will look at those seasons and the emotion that was involved in it, and the way they felt towards their football club, being involved in the biggest matches, you know, in the league and in the Champions League, and playing for domestic trophies. It is what the sport's all about. Those are the games you want to be involved in, and they weren't involved in those games, and we weren't involved in those games, and have kind of put ourselves in a position to do that. So I have a slightly different view. I think that given what they're up against, given the nature of the accusations towards Manchester City, which shouldn't go unsaid here, because we're in a situation where the chief executive of the Premier League is purposefully swerving their game tomorrow, even though they're very likely to win the title, in order not to be presenting them with the trophy and the winners' medals. So you do look at a situation like that, and then you think, well, that's what Liverpool lost out to. How much can you really control, right? So I think that the view over time to them might be decided by that, whether the charges stick, and actually how City are kind of seen in 10 or 15 years' time as a result of that. But if you just purely assess it on the footballing side, I find it very difficult to talk about missed opportunities in the league, maybe in the Champions League. Like, maybe they should have won one of those finals, particularly the second one that they lost.
The Real Madrid one we should have,
Yeah, the second Real Madrid one. Yeah. But
yeah, go on.
It is tricky because they've been a bloody good side. Like, you have to admit it, right?
Yeah.
That they've been there alongside City as the best two teams probably in club football over a sort of 3 or 4 year period. It's difficult to argue with that.
As an Egyptian, it's also, there's an extra layer of special feel to it, because Mohamed Salah is our best ever player, no doubt about it. You know, Mohamed Abutrika might be seen rightly as possibly the greatest, but I don't know if you even heard of Mohamed Abutrika, but yeah, you will have, because he's part of the Dream Team 11 that we picked a couple of years ago with James Alcott. He is probably the greatest and most respected, I would say, over his playing time. And particularly because of his loyalty to al-Ahly at the time and rejecting offers from abroad. And I think there was a real possibility one time that he would go to Fulham. I remember when they were quite a good Premier League side and getting into the Europa League final, I think around that time. But Mohamed Salah is just at a level I don't think we'll ever see again. At least in, I would say in my lifetime, because we just don't have the football structure and the level of talent of emerging youth now. And I think that will have a detriment to the level of football in Egypt in the future. And ultimately what made, or the person who made Mohamed Salah as great, as one of the all-time greats in football, as he is Jurgen Klopp. And I think the rest of Egyptian football history will be mentioning Mohamed Salah, even though he's weirdly controversial for whatever reason. I think it's also the fact that he has played abroad most of his time, and Egyptians aren't really used to that. They're used to the connection with a team that is local and also a certain level of performance with the national team. Obviously, he carried Egypt to a World Cup, but I don't think I'm on a tangent here, but Salah is weirdly controversial, but he's our all-time greatest ever player, and the man that made him that is Jurgen Klopp. So I think from an Egyptian perspective, Klopp will be remembered for eternity, like for the rest of history, because of that. With Mohamed Salah, and there's kind of a duo there, in my opinion anyway. And I live abroad, I don't live in Egypt, so I might be seeing it a little bit differently from the local Egyptian that lives there. But from a Liverpool fan standpoint, when I say if they build a statue for him outside of Anfield, it's not too outrageous. I think it's actually very well deserved, because what Liverpool fans remember is the journey. So Harry made a point about the neutral fan thinking of it as what the destination ultimately for Jurgen Klopp is, rather than the journey. But you also have to see it, or Liverpool fans will see it, from when we started with Klopp, we were 10th or 8th, something like that, in the league. Hadn't won a trophy since 2012. We were nowhere near any prospect of winning a trophy. That same year we go to a Europa League final. The following year, Champions League final. And there's your 2 years where we go trophyless, and then it's an average of a trophy once a year for the rest of it. And a trophy once a year for any club is a huge achievement. On, like, if you average out over a 7-year period, 7 trophies, it's great. It's absolutely great. And particularly with what this Manchester City team represent and will be remembered for, I believe. Because I don't know if that's copium, but I think people will remember City for the controversy more than the level of football that they played. That's, I think, what will happen in the next 10 to 15 years. And I think the truth will come to light. And I think they will be... They have to get punished somehow, like, surely, with the indication of what Richard Masters has said over the last couple of days, and his decision to go to the Arsenal game. And I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic as time goes on that the kind of truth and the justice will be, in a way, from a legacy standpoint, will be served. Whether the severity of the punishments, I'm not sure about. I think it will ultimately be financial, but it will be a big financial punishment, but it will be remembered. The problem that I foresee for Arne Slot is he is coming in, replacing the most beloved Liverpool manager since probably Bill Shankly. And it's extremely difficult to, one, meet the expectation of just carrying that level on, two, creating the relationship with the city and the players that replicates anything like Klopp. And
what do you think?
Yeah.
Sorry, just to sort of...
No, I was going to
if you're... It's more that if you're assessing like expectations for next season, given what you've done this season, the way the season's ultimately finished, which is maybe slightly disappointing, does that where does that set expectations going into next year?
Next year we'd be happy with Champions League football, I would say. I think this season
So
ultimately
you don't expect a challenge?
No, not at all. Champions League football. Get something between third and fourth, because I think it's safe to say Man City and Arsenal are going to go at it again next year. I think that's the basic, like, way too early expectation. Get something between third and fourth, and I'm satisfied. At the same time, I think some Liverpool fans will have the expectation of, Jurgen Klopp left a really good squad and opportunity for you here, Arnie. You just need to carry on, do the right things, and you'll have a proper challenge again. And I think some Liverpool fans might see it that way. But it's a new manager and set of coaches and different backroom staff. Like, everyone is leaving, and there's brand new faces coming in. Some of the backroom staff obviously we hired back in terms of the scouting and stuff, but I think I would take Champions League football. But just to finish on Jurgen Klopp here, I think
just on I just wanted to put one thing in terms of the manager's expectation moving next season. I actually think that is going to be if you look at any of the teams, our relegated teams, that's the toughest job to take on in the Premier League. Potentially Man United, over the Man United going into next season. One, because I think there's almost like there's going to be to command authority with players like Van Dijk, Salah. I think Alisson's very, very humble, so I don't know if that would be a problem. But there's almost a little bit of tension that you can feel already with Salah and Van Dijk, and maybe that's created by media. But I think that kind of authority coming in is going to be really difficult. A couple wins in the first games, I think, absolutely crucial in terms of setting the mood, setting the precedent. And on top of that, I think the top four race next season is going to be so tough. Chelsea are getting better. Tottenham are going to be in it. I think Villa will probably drop off a little bit, but Newcastle, I can't see them not trying to elevate in the summer. I think it's going to be a great season next season with City, Arsenal, and then the top four is going to be really great. That's not a given. Top four. That's what I'm trying to say for Liverpool. And it would be a good achievement.
It will be definitely a challenging top four. I think Villa gets fourth again next season.
Really?
They are on that trajectory.
I think. I can't see it.
Well, you didn't see fourth this season. I said fifth.
Yeah. Okay. No, I agree. I was reminded of that. Not just on here. I said it on other group chats and platforms that I thought they finished bottom half.
There you go. No, I do think they at least challenge for Champions League football again. I
think what you've got to remember, they're going to play 8 Champions League, in effect, group games next year.
Yeah.
I think unless there's huge turnover of that squad, and I think also they have PSR problems as well, because they were talking about potentially having to
they'll do it. I think the ownership is smart enough to.
But I think either way, they've done well this year.
Yeah.
They've kind of run out of steam in the back end of the season, which you see. Really, you'd have expected them to get into the final of the Conference League. And they've stumbled over the line to top 4 because Spurs have made such a mess of it. Villa, don't get me wrong, had a great result against us, but other than that, they've been really patchy in the run-in. So I think more games next year. It wouldn't surprise me if we see from them what we saw from Newcastle this year. Because let's be honest, Newcastle last year were better than Villa have been this year. Personally, they put up more points. They got to a cup final. They didn't play in Europe, which probably benefited them and enabled them to play to maybe a higher level, a bit more energy. It was rock and roll football really from Newcastle, a bit like probably Klopp under Liverpool, but not quite as good. And you see this year they've struggled to match it in terms of energy levels. I think Villa next year, I'm not saying they'll have I'm not saying bottom half, maybe 10th. But I think I think that George makes a good point. Like, I think that there will be a few teams kind of vying for it.
Yeah.
And Liverpool just need to make sure they kind of keep their head above that pack.
Yeah.
Don't stick. You look at it at the minute, they've kind of fallen into not as good as the top two, but then they've been comfortably better than the teams below them.
Yeah.
And that I think next season, if they maintain that position, anything above it's a great performance. Like, if you get into the top two.
For sure. And I think the window will play a huge part in that too.
If you stay where you are with playing Champions League football again, obviously because you weren't in it this year, so it's a different schedule. As I said, more games.
Yeah.
I think that would be a very good first season. But that's my feeling. I'm like the general feeling of the fan base and what they expect is why I asked you. Like, that is ultimately quite important.
Yeah, I think what the Europa League allowed us to do as well is give the youngsters Jurgen Klopp brought in really valuable minutes against really high level opposition they otherwise wouldn't have gotten, and that's one of the biggest positives of having had Europa League football in a season of transition. And this is one of Jurgen Klopp's, in my opinion, biggest legacies, really, is the academy and what he's allowed young players to do, and the level that the academy has the step up that the academy has taken. But just all in all, and we're tight for time here, but absolutely one of the greatest managers, one of the best bits of football I've ever watched. Like, I will tell my grandchildren about 3 sets of teams: the Egyptian national team between 2006 2010, Pep Guardiola's Barcelona between 2009 2011 or 12, and this Jurgen Klopp era. These are like my top 3 most enjoyable times I've had watching football, and it's gonna be hard to top, and it's gonna be different. It's gonna be scary, but I'm just like, I'm incredibly grateful for what Jurgen Klopp has done for my personal enjoyment of football, and I credit that to the fact that I work in football now, and have like those high level ambitions of being part of the sport. And he's aligned with my relationship with Liverpool as an Egyptian American. Never been to Liverpool, don't know when I'm gonna go ever. My relationship with Liverpool started with Fernando Torres in 2006 World Cup, and I just went, oh, he's playing for Liverpool. I guess Liverpool are my team in England now. To this city and manager and set of fan base and squad actually really aligned with my kind of worldview. Really, just like the basics of fairness and being against what the authority do in terms of like looking after themselves rather than caring for the public. And Liverpool have gone through those struggles, and as the years went by and I read more and more about Liverpool and ultimately what Jurgen Klopp thought politically, and he's had his thoughts on like Brexit and stuff. I don't think we'll get a manager like that again, someone that will actually really strengthen the relationship between the fans and the club in that way. And yeah, I just think it was really, really special. Don't see it happening with Arne Slot. Arne Slot comes off as like football, we're just like here to do a job. But Klopp has done so much for the city and the club that I ultimately don't benefit from in any way. Like I'm not a Scouser whatsoever. Couldn't be further from it. But it has been good. It's a very good way of connection. And because as well, one last thing, being an Egyptian, the Egyptian Premier League has died in 2012. It just died a death on that day, early February 2012. Massive massacre, 72 people killed. And that was me done with the Egyptian league. And Liverpool has been like the thing I have always gone back to, like the team I have supported. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun. And Sunday will be tough. But here we are. I think we'll meet again you and I, and hopefully Fergal, for a very special, I believe, awards ceremony for a particular set of people of a certain height. I think
I might just wear my jacket and tie for the
ceremony. I think that's a great idea, Harry. I think that's
dress smart.
I think it's a great idea. So I think we're gonna have something like that. We'll plan it and let the people know when that's gonna be. But good luck, Harry. I really hope Arsenal do win the title ultimately. Yeah. As little hope as I have, but it's 0.1% at this point. But really hope he pulls something off here.
Thanks, man.
George, if you finish above Man United as well, that would be perfect.
So happy with that. There's so many United fans at work, and I bet them in December that we'd finish above them, and they were laughing at us. They said they were playing better football than us for the last 6 months as well. So the delusion is lifted. So happy days.
The worst coach team in the league.
Oh,
pretty comprehensively. All right, we'll see you guys later. Harry, you go to bed or something. You've yawned way too much. All right, see you guys.